Hello, and welcome to our game Water or Bust. In this video, I'll be giving you a short overview of how our game works and what we're eventually trying to accomplish. So, our eventual goal in this game is to turn hydrazine into water. We get the H part of our water compound from the hydrogen storage tanks, and we get the O2 part of our water compound from the MAV fuel plant, which builds up CO2. We also have O2 in the atmosphere, and we also have some O2 storage build up, but that is not enough to get rid of all the H2 from the hydrazine storage tanks. So we have to continually keep adding CO2, which the oxygenator will turn into O2. So as we add CO2 to the atmosphere, you will see it is going up, the atmospheric regulator. While the oxygenator does turn CO2 into oxygen, it doesn't do it at a fast enough rate to offset the rate at which it enters. So we have to make sure our CO2 never gets above 6%, otherwise we could die from CO2 poisoning. The reason we need to keep adding CO2 is when we are burning N2H4, we are also burning up our oxygen in the combustion reaction. So while it is unfortunate, it is necessary. So let's say we turn on our burning station, our water generator. So now we are burning N2H4 and oxygen and turning it into the water we eventually need. But this reaction is not completely clean. We also get some H2 being released into the atmosphere, which is very unsafe. In our book, The Story, The Martian, our hero eventually finds out his atmosphere is made up of about 70% H2, and just a spark could have possibly blown up the hab, killed him. So right now you can see our H2 is building up and our O2 is building up. While that is building up, our water reclaimer is storing the H2O in the atmosphere. It doesn't do it at a fast enough rate though, so there's condensation building up. One of the ways we can die in this game, for example, is if the H2 ever gets above 75%, then we will just die, as anything could set it off even. A simple spark isn't needed. Or we also have a spark. We also have sparks, flames we can generate ourselves, which will also kill us. That's a much quicker way to generate the explosion. So as you can see, the storage O2 in the oxygenator has gone down from that reaction we were just doing. Once that gets low enough, the O2 in our atmosphere will start going down. Will be below 19%, which the oxygenator tries to keep the atmosphere at a minimum because it has no more O2 to provide. So the goal is to eventually get rid of. The goal we have now is to eventually get rid of this H2. And how we do that is we need a way to safely burn it. That's the way Mike accomplished it in the book, and that's what we'll be trying to do in this game. But the O2 right now is much too high. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. We cannot do this safely. The reaction will just go out of control. It'll be like a nuclear meltdown of a nuclear site. So what we have to do is we have to block the atmospheric regulator input pipe, and this will tell our atmospheric regulator that the atmosphere in our hab is actually 100% oxygen. And this will worry the system, so no one can survive under those conditions. So it will try to store all the O2 that's in the atmosphere and put it back into the O2 storage tanks. Fun fact, if you want to know how they do this, the freezing rate of O2 is about 90 Kelvin, I believe, and the other things that make up the atmosphere, H2, CO2, N2, those all have a lower freezing rate. So when we freeze this, the O2 can be turned into liquid and everything else will just stay in its gaseous form. So let's block this atmospheric regulator input pipe now. As you will see soon, the oxygenator is storing O2. We started at 29, and it's getting really fast to an unsafe rate. We will soon die from lack of O2, but we put on our spacesuit, which has a small amount of suit air to sustain us for a small amount. So what we eventually want to do is wait for the storage O2 to eventually not be increasing as it is now. That tells us all the O2 in the air is gone and it is safe to burn off this H2. So now what we do is I pick up our oxygen-taking flamer, and now we're releasing small bursts of O2 and also burning them with our sparkler here. This will hopefully eventually decrease, if not all, most of the H2 in our atmosphere. So that's been a while. I don't have much time left in my suit, so I'm going to reopen that pipe. It is going to tell the system there's no O2 in the atmosphere, so the storage O2 will go down as it adds it to our atmosphere. So now I just have to wait for O2 to get to safe levels. Hopefully it has by now. I'll give it a few more seconds. And I'll take my suit off, and it is going to build suit air back up once again for when we need to do this again. I'll also put down the oxygen tank and sparkler so I don't accidentally set off an explosion if our H2 is too high. So now you can see our H2 is back where we started at. It's at negative 0.42%, but our atmospheric regulator isn't perfect. It's still good though. So as we can see from that, we have now stored up 125 liters, I'll go with, of H2O. This is good. We're proceeding along our goal. Our oxygenator, we have storage O2. There's not much left. If I burn my N2H4 now, we will eventually be using up all that O2. We will not have any left before we even get back up to the levels we were at before, which was about 70% H2. As you can see, it's dropping down, dropping down. Eventually it will be at 0 and we'll be using up O2 in our atmosphere. So that is when we turn on the CO2, as I've spoken up earlier. This is when it becomes necessary. So in our game, we have to go through these continual steps, keep repeating what we've just done, and ensure that we don't become lazy, complacent. This follows Mark's main task of always making sure you stay on the ball. Because while you might think you have everything memorized, you know what to do, it is very easy to slip up. And while you have a few short timers to get back to it, if you don't in time, you will eventually die from one of these eventual ways in the bottom right. Which I guess I'll show you an example right now. So I'll turn on the CO2 input pipe, and now our CO2 is increasing. Once it gets to 6%, we'll die from CO2 poisoning, which is unfortunate. There we go. Another way we can die includes a hydrazine buildup, which is a very unstable, well, not unstable in that way. It is very unsafe. We always have to make sure our burning station is on so that our N2H4 does not stay in its form. It can only be safely stored in its tanks. When we just turn on the hydrazine storage, not the burning station, it is releasing it, and eventually it gets too high for us to live. Now, you can see the other ways we have of dying. They're all unfortunate. You just won't want them. That is our game.